So, this is my first video since getting out of jail. Kind of fun. I spent I think it was 41 or 42 days in jail. And unfortunately for me, because I was claiming to be the second coming of Christ when I got arrested, I ended up spending the time in the mental health portion of the jail, which was nightmarish compared to what I heard regular jail was all about. And I was also looking forward to regular jail because I was hoping to do a little bit of preaching in there. But the mental health people, they ain't about it. They all think they know everything, and ain't none of them feel sorry for anything they ever done. And so it was just kind of the wrong place for, I talked to them about it a little bit, but half of them thought they were the second coming of Christ. Oh, man. So today's 12/12/24. If you think about it as like the month and the day equal the year, the first time in the cycle that it happened was January 1st, 2002. And that cycle happens 12 times. And today's the 12th of those 12 times over a 23-year period. And it doesn't happen again for 77 years. And so today is the end of the 100-year cycle, which is exciting. I don't know what it means. I don't know if it means anything, but it feels like good timing. Definitely feels like good timing. And yeah, in this video, we're just going to be talking about some probably final religious thoughts that I have. I'm hoping for some type of big finale at the end of this year. Nothing to do with what I do, but more to do with the way this world treats me. I don't know how things could change for my benefit, but I feel like change is needed. There's many YouTube channels that I've discovered that have come to life since my recent actions, both of my biblical AI videos that I made about what the Bible actually says about the second coming, and about the overall synopsis of the Bible, which is that Jesus is not coming from the sky. Well, maybe 1,000 years from now, but instead that God is coming as the second coming, as an imperfect person, and that God will reign for 1,000 years. And that God is the Son of Man, and that Jesus is now God. That is what the Bible actually says. So if you didn't know that, now you know. Go read the Bible. It makes way more sense when you understand it that way. And so when it says that Jesus comes down with fire, or God comes down with fire is what it actually says in Revelation, after the 1,000 years, when the city surrounds Zion, or when the city of Zion is surrounded by the wicked, those who are tempted by Satan in the last days. That's when Jesus comes down. So don't be expecting to see Jesus for another 1,000 years after the second coming, who is God, who is me, is reigning on earth. Now, there's like 3 more videos that I thought I might make with AI, but rather than making with AI, for some reason it feels better that I just speak it out here on YouTube. And yeah, I just feel like the message itself is important to get out there, but I don't know, I'd rather talk than use AI. Although those AI videos are some of my, they're so good. I don't know if any other video in the whole world will ever match it. I think those videos are the best videos ever to be made and ever will be made. But yeah, we're going to talk about a couple things. So first, let's go ahead and talk about Bible prophecy. So there's several places in the Bible, the book of Daniel, Revelations, that you can find where it talks about, and a lot in the Book of Mormon, where a message is being taught in the Book of Mormon, and then they say, but the rest of the message was not written down for it to be sealed. The true message is to be sealed until the end days. And the reason it was sealed, the reason the messages weren't always fully explained, was so that the devil could weaponize the Bible against Christians and teach you guys false teachings and make you guys believe something that wasn't true, which is that Jesus was going to come back a perfect being as the second coming of Christ. And the reason that was necessary was so that when I dropped those videos about the true meaning of the Bible, that it would have impact. Because if everyone knew that God was coming back, then everyone would be saying that they're God, rather than most people who are claiming to be the second coming of Christ are saying that they're Jesus. And so the first sign, if someone's saying they're the second coming and they say Jesus, they're Jesus, whatever, like, you just know they're full of crap, because that's not how it goes. That's not what it is. And instead, the Bible's true message was hidden up by the devil so that God could one day weaponize the truth to reveal his presence to the world. Now, I see that as a twofold reason. So the first reason being that God could use the truth against the devil, but also I believe that the devil weaponized the fictional meaning of the Bible as Jesus being the second coming of Christ, so that Christians could still be punished for living a righteous life or trying to live in a righteous society and create their own society separate from the devil's without retribution, with the idea that, oh, you just got to wait till Jesus comes back and save you. Well, once you understand that it was never Jesus coming back from the sky, and that instead God was going to be born an imperfect vessel, it would change the fundamental way that Christians are taught to raise their children. It would change the fundamental ways that we are taught to teach our children. And the best example I can think of is if you think of the Avatar: The Last Airbender. We should have been raised in a society where every person having a child thought that their child potentially had the potential to be the second coming of Christ. And when you think about it that way, and when you think about how you treat your children and the idea that they may be the second coming, it would have easily created a much more peaceful, happy world where respect is given and shown to all people, because nobody knows who's what until it happens. And so we're past that point. We all know. I mean, anyone that's paying attention knows I am the second coming. And I guess there's no reason to look back on the past and be angry about it, even though I'm very angry about it. More so angry about the Christians who have upheld these false beliefs and continue to uphold these false beliefs. They definitely anger me the most. There's no worse person on the earth than a Christian who's preaching the wrong stuff. That is the epitome of the devil's right hand. Not the person that's robbing the bank, not the person that's abusing their children. The worst people are the people that are abusing the gospel. Abusing the gospel on Satan's behalf. And so that's the first topic I wanted to go over. The next topic I wanted to go over is about, well, I guess, so that was one portion of the prophecy in the Bible that I've already fulfilled in revealing the true meaning of the Bible. But the second portion of prophecy of Bible is what happened when I got arrested. And I'd like to go over that as well. And so the second portion is best described in the book of Malachi, where it says God will show up suddenly. He will suddenly appear at the temple on Mount Zion. Well, if you did not know, religions, both with Islam, Christianity, Judaism, all believe that wherever the Messiah is born, the second coming is born, that land will be the land of Zion. And so since it's obvious that I am the second coming, and I was born in Arizona, and I reside in Arizona, and Arizona is the only state, country, place out there that contains the letter Z-I-O-N. And I mean, if you really look at Arizona, it basically spells out Zion. And it's obvious that Arizona is Zion. Well, when you look at, so Tucson, Arizona is the temple that I was arrested at. And when you Google the definition of Tucson, what do you get? The definition of mountains. And so when it says God will show up suddenly at the temple on Mount Zion, that is the temple in Tucson, Arizona. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Everyone should have a very simple understanding of how that is all 100% biblical prophecy and accurate. Well, what else does it say? It says that God will show up to this temple and spread dung across the faces of the descendants of righteous ancestors. Well, the righteous ancestors are the Mormons. So if you didn't know it, Joseph Smith was 100% a true prophet of God. He was a holy, holy man. He was a champion. I mean, it's hard to think of who may have been greater than Joseph Smith outside of Jesus himself. The stuff that guy, I mean, I almost called him a kid just because he started so young and he died so young. He started when he was 14, which is in the New Testament. You can find where it talks about the 14-year-old. And I guarantee you he read the scriptures when he was like before 14, and as he was 14 he realized it was speaking to him, just like when I read the scriptures I realized it was speaking to me. It was a challenge and I felt like I could live up to the challenge, and that's what got him to go pray and be so earnest about his faith, because he saw that some 14-year-old was going to do it, and he knew that he was desperate for knowledge. He was desperate to be the Lord's servant. He was desperate to pave the way for the second coming of Christ, which is also another biblical prophecy. And so I don't remember exactly where I was going with that, but between the Book of Mormon and the Bible, there's this prophecy. The Book of Mormon talks about it being the Lamanites, and the New Testament talks about it being, Jesus tells a parable saying that it's the kingdom of heaven is like unto a king who is having a great party, and he sends out a messenger to go and invite the higher ups, the authority figures around the king, and they're all too busy. Everyone's got their own stuff going on. No one wants to show up to the king's party. And so what does the king do? He says, send the messenger to the streets and go and get anyone who will come. And this prophecy is the prophecy that foretells about the Gentiles. And ultimately, about how the greatest followers in the end times of the second coming, the greatest believers, the ones who will find their exaltation first as God begins to exalt his people, are going to be people of color. The people that have been abused, oppressed, and yet still believe. These are the people that the Bible speaks of as being the army of God. And one story I want to tell about this that really bothers me that I didn't learn it as a child, because I was raised in a devout Mormon family and I went to church every week, and I've heard stories about this story, but I've never actually deeply read the Book of Mormon myself until I was in jail. Now I've read it twice, and it's about the 2,000 children who become an army of Helaman, who was a prophet of God. And basically the story of these 2,000 children is that their parents made a commitment after learning the true gospel and learning the plan of salvation and the first coming of Jesus and the second coming and how it would all work out. Well, this group of people decided that they would lay down their weapons for as long as they lived, and that if someone tried to kill them, they would accept death rather than fight back. And they made a covenant with God that they would never lift a weapon against a fellow brethren ever again for as long as they shall live. And so these people made this covenant. Some of them died in the beginning when they were attacked, but then the attackers felt like animals, and they said, how can we kill people that aren't willing to fight back? And so they stopped for a moment, and when they came back to attack and finish the job, the righteous group that was living elsewhere decided to take them in as refugees, and give them their own land and protect them because they appreciated the covenant they made with God. Well, there became a giant war, and all lands of the righteous were under siege, and they were on the verge of being destroyed. And so the people that made the covenant with God that they would never pick up a weapon went to the people protecting them, and they said, we feel like we need to fight. Like there's nothing else we can do. Like we can't just watch you guys die for our protection and then end up us losing the war and nobody having protection and all the righteous being destroyed. Well, the prophet Helaman said, absolutely not. You made a covenant with God. I will not have it. You will not break that covenant. For breaking a covenant with God could cost you your soul and eternal life. And I will not be a part of that. And so these people, before they made the covenant, or after they made the covenant, had children. And these children, post-covenant, had not been a part of the covenant to not pick up weapons and go to war. And so these children, 2,000 of them, eventually 2,060 of them, decided that they would fight for their family, for their land, and for their freedom, to believe and worship how they choose. And so Helaman takes these 2,000 kids, as the Bible describes them as children, sons, and he takes them to war with the rest of the armies, and he adds them as a supply. Well, the beautiful story that this delves into is that They were part of multiple great battles. They slew tens of thousands of others, of Lamanites that were seeking to destroy Zarahemla. And not a single one of them died. There was many battles where, there was basically three main battles, but in the last battle, it says that not a single one of them, of all 2,060 of them, did not take serious injury. And that in this battle, every single one of them was injured greatly. But yet, not a single one died. And in the first battle, they were used as a distraction to go out and draw out the army of the wicked. And the army came after them, and they fled into the wilderness, as there was another army of the righteous behind the wicked army, and they started to battle. And the righteous army, thinking that they could sneak attack with the distraction of the 2,000, were losing the fight. And Helaman, when they were in the wilderness, as they have fled away as the distraction to their safety, he turned around and he asked the 2,000 sons, what should we do? Should we stay here in our safety, or should we go out and fight? And the sons said, our mothers raised us to believe that if we fight in righteousness and we fight for righteousness and we believe in our God like we do, we cannot fail. So let's go fight. And as the righteous army was about to lose and run away after losing many men, the 2,000 sons showed up and essentially blindsided the wicked army, who was now focused on the actual righteous army that was sent to fight. And they destroyed and killed so many of the wicked until the wicked surrendered. And I really love this story. It's in the book of Alma. It's probably the last 20 chapters. And I think it's the most powerful story of all of them. But what I was not raised to understand, what nobody ever told me, was that these children were black. That the people who made the covenant never to pick up a weapon and go against anyone who sought their destruction and rather die were black. And it really bothers me that the Mormons only tell portions of their story and uphold all their garbage rituals and traditions, and they ignore all the most important parts of their religion. The Book of Mormon is partly written and transcribed so that to edify the idea that the second coming of Christ is not Jesus Christ, but rather God in flesh and an imperfect person who was sent here to not like Jesus that came to die so that all could be forgiven. Jesus came down perfect so that he could die, so that sin no longer has an ultimate hold on humanity. Well, God was sent here for a different purpose. God was sent here to embrace sin, to partake in sin, so that the day that God chooses righteousness and chooses salvation, that the wicked, that the sinners would look at this man and say, wow, that's our Savior. If he can do it, so can I. If he can be forgiven, so can I. And if you want to read about that, you can read the book of Mosiah. I would recommend chapters 13 to 17. And you'll see it where it says it in plain English, no doubts. The Book of Mormon is a great book. As long as you're not, it's just like the Bible. The Bible is a great book, but if you listen to a pastor who's talking about Jesus coming from the sky to save you in the next year or whatever, then you know you're listening to a devil. And the same goes for the Book of Mormon. Every word in it is so true, so powerful, so meaningful. But if you're listening to someone teach you what they think the Book of Mormon says, and they're a devil, then it has no power, it has no meaning. Now, I think that's enough of that topic, and I have one last topic. And I was going to turn all these into AI videos, and maybe someday I still do, but I don't know. I don't see any purpose. I like talking, and I'd rather talk than write to an AI thing and post an AI video that gets suppressed and gives me a false number of views, likes, and somehow I have a video with 4,000 likes on it, 30,000 views, and yet it has 0 comments, and it's the most meaningful and powerful video ever created in the history of the world. Explain that bullshit. It can't be explained other than pure manipulation. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off that I live in a world where I can do something so great, something worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize, and yet I'm still suppressed. Oh, am I oppressed? And so the last portion that I wanted to go over is, what is the world going to be like when I finally get my power, when I'm finally accepted as the second coming of Christ by not just the Gentiles, not just eventually the Mormons, but by the wicked, and all nations kneel to my authority. What is the world going to look like? And I feel like even the people that I think that are righteous, that I like what they're saying, I love their music, I feel like they're finally getting on the right track. Even these people, when I hear them speak of the end times and what the world's going to be like, it just doesn't sound right. Everything sounds off. And so I would like to explain what I see and what I believe to be the truth. What I say may not be perfect at the moment, but it's probably the closest to the truth. And I'm open to accepting a better understanding when I learn more, as I'm a person who is still learning, still growing, still progressing. But ultimately, what we're going to see is we're going to see a world where outright wickedness is destroyed and killed. If you are just a wicked person that lives an evil life, that is looking to abuse your fellow brother and sister, you're going to die. I got no time for you. I got no space on this earth for you. Your time is up. This is my world, and you don't get to live in it. But as long as you're not evil to the core, there will be a place for you. And you don't got to be perfect, and you don't got to worship, and you don't got to pray, and you don't got to do anything you don't want to do. And most of the world is going to be this portion of people. And basically, these people will be people living lives that they believe the prophets taught them to live. So like whether it's the law of Moses or some other prophet you respect, and you believe they have a teaching of ways to live your life, if that's just how you want to go live your basic ordinary life, like that will be up to you. And these are the very same people that after 1,000 years when the Satan is loose for a final season, these are the same people that will come and try to destroy God, try to destroy me. And these are the same people that got no chance. And so this is the majority of the world. You will live lives similar to the life you live now. You will have a house. Some people will work. Most people will probably work, because the way the world's going to be is that, similar to now, those who work will have extra resources to do more things, such as travel, such as eat different foods, drink different wines, all those good things that people like to do. That will still be a thing. There's nothing wrong with it. But these people will be what I refer to as, and what the Book of Mormon refers to, or it might be the Doctrine and Covenants refers to, as the telestial kingdom. And these people in the after judgment day will not have access to God or Jesus Christ. They will be able to earn eternal life, but they will not be in the company of gods. And they'll still be happy, and there's nothing wrong with that. The second group of people are going to be the people who believe and follow Jesus Christ. They will be people who are, for whatever reason, offended by me, offended by my presence, offended by my personality, and just unable to bridge the gap of understanding when Jesus spoke the words that he is great, but the Father's greater than he is. He's talking about me. Jesus came down perfect and lived a perfect life. God comes down and embraces sin and faces destruction and damnation and then overcomes. That's real power. That's ultimate power. And so there's going to be a large group of people that will not be able to accept me for whatever reason. And they'll still love Jesus. And for these people, there will be the terrestrial kingdom. And they will have a greater glory than the people in the telestial kingdom. And they will have access to Jesus in the afterlife, the presence of God. But they will not become gods themselves. For the last group of people, we have the celestial kingdom. And only the people in the celestial kingdom will become gods themselves. And only the people who chase me, my presence, my personality, my history, understanding everything there is to understand about me, and doing everything they have to do to live in my company and my presence and my city of Zion, New Jerusalem. That is the third group of people, the last group of people, the best group of people. And I have a strong feeling that it's going to be a majority of black people. They're the only ones who are humble enough. I'm not going to say they're the only ones, but they're the largest group of ones who just want to be saved and want to be happy and want to be with God. I don't find that type of passion with anyone else other than them. And it makes me happy. It makes me happy to see them, to listen to them. All those good things. And so I kind of forgot the second group of people. They too will likely live on the outskirts of Zion. Also work hard, earn extra, probably be very charitable and grateful for the new world that I bring to Earth, the new ways of living, the new ways of humanity, the new ways of power, the new ways of rulers in judgment. And the third group of people, the celestial kingdom, my people, God's people, the people who become gods, they will get the pleasure of living in my city, living in Zion, living in New Jerusalem. But I can't fathom that I'm going to allow anyone to live around me, near me, with me, unless they are 100% for me and nothing else. With that said, I think I'm about to wrap up this video. And I just wonder, and I pray for this change, but I pray that like all these worship videos that I've been watching, all these musics, these melodies, that you guys become more bold. Say my name. Preach me. Jesus is amazing. Without Jesus, all of us are damned. Obviously, I wouldn't have come here unless Jesus already did his part, because I was already seated on the throne. But without Jesus, you were all done for. None of you stood a chance. Not against this devil. Because as much as I got this devil by the throat, he was not easy to tame. Man, this was a fucked up world. But it feels so weak and useless now. Like, everything I run into, every person who tries to like talk with me and explain the devil's words and try to convince me of something that's not true, it's also weak. It's also pathetic. Like, I look forward to the day I find another challenge, because right now I feel like this world is challengeless. Every great challenge that was left, I've already defeated. And now I'm just chilling, waiting for the world to catch up to me. Like my man bun. Horus is a douchebag, fake fucking devil. And his soul will burn in hell. That much is certain. Anyone that uses terms like schizophrenia, bipolar, anything like that is instantly labeled the devil, and they will burn in hell. None of those things are real. There is sin and there is righteousness. There is no such thing as mental health. Mental health is a fabrication of the devil. Somebody with schizophrenia cannot do what I've done. Cannot talk like I talk. Cannot comprehend like I comprehend. Anyone suggesting otherwise is fucking retarded. If you are a righteous person and you're worried about me using swear words, I just challenge you to go read the New Testament about what it says about prophets using strong language. It's okay. You shouldn't. Because you should realize your weakness, and you should be doing everything in your power to absolve yourself of your weakness. And so you should learn to bridle your tongue. But once you reach the level of righteousness that I'm at, there is no wrong that I'm ever going to do again. I walk in perfect righteousness. I really do. And now I'm just patient. Patient for a world that will say my name. that will preach my gospel. There's nothing left for me to do, people. The book of Malachi says, I'll show up to Mount Zion. I'll spread dung across the faces of the Mormons, which I've done. And after that, what does it say? It says, bless me with my tithes. Give me the money, the power, and I will bring heaven down to earth. And so the ball is in your court, not my court. I've done all I can do. If I die, then all of you guys are done for, and I just go live with Jesus. But obviously the Bible says I'm not going to die, and rather I'm going to live for 1,000 years. But I'm just trying to give you some context to all this. Every prophecy in the Bible has been fulfilled, except for what you guys are owed, what you guys are required to do, which is send me money. And I don't mean send me money. I put a little post where you can send me money just because I feel like you guys should be so sure that I'm the second coming of Christ that you should be selling your house, selling your everything, and giving me everything, and just trusting that I'll figure it out for you. Like, if I was in your situation, I would have already done that. And so it amazes me that there's no one out there who does that. It amazes me there's no one out there who believes like that, who has that level of faith, that they just give up everything in their world and give it to me and trust that I'll put them in a good situation. It's okay. I'll wait for you all to catch up. I'm just chilling. Just chilling until then. There's nothing left for me to do. There's nothing left for me to say. The last things that I will say is that obviously we have the 12-12-24 cycle, 100-year cycle that's coming to an end today. So that gives me hope that big things are changing at the moment without me being able to see it. I hear people singing about systems are failing around the world. I don't know what that means. Whatever it is, I don't have access to that information. And the only information I have access to is the same information anyone does with a common cell phone. Like, I don't hear voices. I don't get visions. I read the Bible. I live righteously, and that's about it. There's nothing special going on here other than a righteous man doing what feels right in every situation. And so outside of the 12-12-24 cycle that's coming to an end, the other thing that gives me hope for the end of this year is that I 100% believe that the old Mormonism was the true Church of God, and that the new Mormonism will eventually secede their power and buildings and finances to me. But until then, I read about, or I like to read the hymns of the Mormons, and most of these hymns were written before the year 1900. And there's many of them that speak of God's return and of his opportunities and time to protect and dwell with his people coming in the winter season. And so the winter season begins, I believe, December 21st this year. And so I look forward to the winter season thinking that it may be the timing where I finally get what I've been waiting for a long, long time. I've been waiting for a long, long time. I've been deserving for a long, long time. We can argue that I didn't truly deserve it until I fulfilled the scripture, but unfortunately I couldn't fulfill the scripture until the proper timing. And so I've just been waiting for that proper timing. But yeah, I mean, the only way that things could have happened differently was if everyone chose righteousness a little bit faster than what they've done so far. The Bible does say that we could have won faster and not had to wait for me to do everything all by myself had you guys been more righteous, which would have been cool. But it didn't happen, so it had to go the way the Bible said it would go. Last thing I'll say about the Book of Mormon is that the biggest change from the Book of Mormon from the New Testament, the only added revelation that I feel actually comes from the Book of Mormon that can't be found in the New Testament, is that the New Testament says that you should never fight. You should always turn the other cheek. You should never go to war because Jesus wouldn't do that. Well, the Book of Mormon makes it clear that that is true in all cases except for the case of the Promised Land. In the case of the Promised Land, you are allowed to fight, and as long as you are fighting in righteousness and you live in righteousness, you will win your fight every time, and you cannot fail. And that you can fight to the death with anyone as long as it's for the Promised Land, which is Arizona, which is mine. And so we get enough people here, and the devil won't let go of my land. Like, let's fucking go to war is my viewpoint, is what the Book of Mormon tells me. Let's fucking go to war, blood and everything.